Are you thinking of running a crowdfunding campaign, but you're uncertain if you should go with GoFundMe or Kickstarter? In today's YouTube video, I'm going to be breaking down some of the similarities and the differences between these two major crowdfunding platforms, and also some of the pros and the cons when it comes to GoFundMe and Kickstarter. My name is Salvador Briggman, and make sure you stay around until the end of this video, because I'm also going to be sharing with you some killer crowdfunding tips and also a resource which can really blow up your campaign. All right, man, welcome back to this channel. And again, my name is Salvador Briggman, and on this channel we cover crowdfunding, and I've been doing this since 2012. I launched my blog crowdcrux.com, my podcast Crowdfunding Demystified, where we interview successful case studies every single week, and of course also we put out high quality education every single week on this YouTube channel. So when it comes to crowdfunding, GoFundMe is usually one of the first platforms that most people think of. When it comes to GoFundMe, we tend to see lots of different types of projects being launched for charitable causes, personal expenses. It could be emergencies or memorial funds. It could be travel costs, education related bills. It could even be for a business that you're raising money for on GoFundMe. But I'd say that the one thing they have in common is that they tend to be for charitable needs or causes, or for a nonprofit organization. So one of the great things about GoFundMe is that there are no fees to get started. So you can literally launch a campaign on GoFundMe. It's extremely easy. I have some great tutorial videos out there on YouTube showing you exactly how to do that from a step-by-step fashion. You can get a campaign out there, you can start to raise money, and there isn't any kind of set duration. So you can keep this sucker open for as long as you want. You can keep raising money for a cause or a need or an emergency of some kind, and those funds can then flow into your bank account. And in that way, you're harnessing the power of the crowd, whether that's with your own social media networks or strangers out there that are donating to your cause in order to help you at this element or this point in your life. Now, while there are no fees to get started with GoFundMe, there is going to be a 2.9% fee on donations when they start to roll in the door. So there's a 2.9% fee at the time I'm recording this video. Sometimes it changes, plus a 30-cent fee that's tacked on to each donation. So you're really only gonna be receiving a certain portion of those funds, and some portion is gonna go to GoFundMe's platform itself in order to help maintain operations. In addition, GoFundMe is going to be asking your donors for a tip. So that will be a tip on top of their donation. They will be asking them for. It is optional, but something that you should be aware of. Now, what about Kickstarter? Kickstarter is another major platform out there, and one which you can use to raise money. Who would actually use Kickstarter when it comes to launching a crowdfunding campaign? Well, when we think of Kickstarter, we tend to really kind of lump that into what's called rewards-based crowdfunding. And it's actually very different from charitable crowdfunding. And I should know because I wrote a book on each of them. When it comes to Kickstarter, you're tending to fall more into the creative category. So for example, you have projects that are technology related, design related. You have someone who's invented something new and they're trying to raise money in order to get this product out there. But it's also for films, it's also for theater projects, it's also for comic books. It could even be for a new novel which you've published, and you're trying to raise money when it comes to that specific campaign. Campaigns on Kickstarter do have a set funding duration, whether that's 30 days or 60 days. You're raising money for a set period of time. In addition, when it comes to doing a Kickstarter campaign, similar to GoFundMe, in order to launch a Kickstarter campaign, there are no fees to get started, but once the campaign ends, you have to either hit or exceed your goal, first of all, in order to keep the funds in which you have raised. That's a very important point. And number two, there's also going to be a 5% fee plus credit card processing, which is tacked on to that amount when you have that lump sum of cash, which is deposited into your bank account. So we touched on a really important point, which is number one, rewards-based crowdfunding, which is that when people back your campaign on Kickstarter, they're not just donating money to your campaign, they're also getting access to what are called exclusive perks and rewards. So that could be, for example, like pre-ordering your product, or if you're coming out with a new screenplay or a new theater project, maybe they can even contribute a line of dialogue to that play or name a character after them in some way. You could give them a movie poster, etc. So there are perks and rewards. There's all or nothing crowdfunding as well, which is another key term, which is the fact you need to hit or exceed your goal in order to keep the funds which have been raised on Kickstarter. The last thing we'll mention on this platform is that it's great for community building, because usually you're kind of gathering a community around people who care about a new brand which is being launched. They're really kind of rallying around you, but also what it is that you're creating, what that says, your brand values, or it could even be just this medium which you're producing and people really love that medium. For example, that could be comic books or tabletops or new card games, those kinds of industries. All right, so let's start to compare some of the similarities and the differences between Kickstarter and Indiegogo. In addition, like I mentioned, I do have a book out there on GoFundMe called Crowdfunding Personal Expenses. I've had so many people say very nice things about that book, which I published on Amazon and also is available via Audible. You can go and check it out at the link in the description for Crowdfunding Personal Expenses, and also get a free copy via Audible. In addition, I have a book called The Kickstarter Launch Formula, which is really the paint by numbers formula, which you can follow in order to crush your goal on Kickstarter, to blow past it, to get funded, and the tactics and the tools to be able to actually strategically launch a campaign and kind of make it more of like a science, and also blending that a little bit with the art of launching a campaign. And again, you can also check out the link to that book in the description. So let's get it first into some of the differences when it comes to these two platforms, GoFundMe and Kickstarter. I'd say the biggest difference is the method of crowdfunding. One, which is GoFundMe, is going to be charitable-based crowdfunding model. So that's again where you have maybe a target, but it doesn't mean that that target also isn't going to expand. And this is actually a new feature on GoFundMe, which is that you can have a set target, but you can actually raise the amount that you're looking to have when it comes to your crowdfunding campaign goal. In addition, there is no fixed duration when it comes to your GoFundMe campaign. GoFundMe also allows donors to make a recurring donation to your campaign. And lastly, when it comes to that specific charitable crowdfunding model, which is usually, I'd say, a business model that's very common in that industry, they're going to ask for a tip on top of the amount that someone has donated to your campaign. So if we contrast that to the rewards-based crowdfunding model, which is very different from the charitable crowdfunding model, you have a set funding duration. You also have a goal which you must hit or exceed in order to keep those funds which have been raised. And in addition, they're not going to necessarily ask you for a donation or a tip when it comes to you checking out, but there are going to be other ways in which you can actually increase the overall order value of someone who's backing or becoming a pledger of your campaign. And that would be having add-ons, having stretch goals, having multiple reward tiers, multiple packages. And even after the Kickstarter campaign is done, you can do what's called Kickstarter late pledges. So people that get to the campaign after the fact when it's been closed, you can have them actually back your campaign long into the distance. And I think that's a very important part when it comes to making a difference between these two. The next one would be the audience and the purpose. And I think that this is so critical because as a digital marketer myself, you always got to be mindful of the audience, who it is that you're speaking to. And I tend to like to speak to people that are passionate, that are excited, that are moving their life forward in some way. And they're using crowdfunding to kind of get to that next level or to even make a career shifting decision when it comes to their life. Want to take all the stress out of fulfilling your Kickstarter rewards? Fulfillrite is the turnkey solution that puts product delivery on autopilot. The Top Campaigns uses trusted high-tech provider to store, package, and ship their products. Focus on growing your business. Leave shipping to the experts. Don't wait. Get a custom quote from Fulfillrite today. Link in the description. When it comes to GoFundMe, we're usually going after an audience of people that believe in stepping up in order to impact a wrong, to right a wrong in society, to make an impact, to donate to a cause, to do something good from an ethical standpoint. So GoFundMe campaigns tend to be centered around some kind of a disaster event, something that was an emergency that happened. For example, a business that burned down. It could be for minorities as well. Something really drastic happened that was negative. And people are rallying around this cause in order to support it, in order to donate to it. So we tend to see crowdfunding campaigns that are centered around a charity, or charitable causes. It could be a nonprofit, or it could be a specific need in some way. It's also for what I would call like news event or news story type of events. For example, like a homeless man decides to turn in money. And as a result, the audience or the local community rallies around him and decides to donate in order to help get him off the streets. When we're thinking more so about Kickstarter, we tend to think more about entrepreneurial projects. We tend to think about creative projects, something that produces an end result or an end product, whether that's creative in nature like a book, a film, or a music piece. It could be an album in some way, or something more commercial or entrepreneurial like a design product, a new technology gadget. It could be even like a new stovetop or something that's going to be for a home good, but it's really creating something, and the people that are backing them are participating in the creative process. So what do they love to see? They love to see the behind the scenes, the sketches. They love to see this brand come to light. They believe in the values of that brand. Maybe it's ethically sourced, or the certain materials that are made out of it are better for the environment. People tend to like the story behind a Kickstarter campaign, but they also want to use the product in some way, or they want to attend the movie premiere. They want to be much more involved, and thus they tend to be much more part of an audience and a community. So I want to talk about which one is best for you, and then I want to talk about some advice and tips when it comes to doing a crowdfunding campaign. So first of all, if we were to think about GoFundMe, I tend to think of, for the coaching students that I have, for the people that read my books and write in via email, or even take one of my free courses. I have a great free course out there on GoFundMe that just kind of walks you step by step through what you got to do in order to get a campaign out there, but also some of the tools and techniques you might not be aware of in order to raise more with your campaign. If you want to learn more about my free course on GoFundMe, all you got to do is go to crowdcrux.com/GoFundMe course, and I'll include that link down below as well at crowdcrux.com/GoFundMe course. Enter your name and email, and you'll start getting some lessons from me. I tend to think of the person that's going for a GoFundMe campaign, number one, to be raising money for a specific cause. Number two, that cause tends to have some kind of a societal impact or impact in some way. Number three, something usually negative or unfortunate happened, which led to them raising money for that specific cause. And the last one I would say is that it connects with people on an emotional level. There's a story which can be told where a stranger, if they were to hear that story, are like, my gosh, I want to step up and I want to help and I want to contribute to that campaign. Whenever there is a story behind the GoFundMe campaign, that's what I call the GoFundMe campaign has legs. The story can actually take off and it can be shared on major social bookmarking websites, on Reddit, it can be picked up by the news, and that's when you have like more of a viral GoFundMe campaign. And I do talk about that element of having virality in my free course on GoFundMe. Then what if you're like, Sal, that sounds great, but I want to raise money for it to start a business and to be able to do this new thing and to open up this new retail shop, or to purchase real estate, or to do something else for profit with that money. When someone comes to me as a coaching student and is kind of like, I want to raise money for this specific purpose, or to start a business, or to build a product, or to do this, that's when it tends to focus much more on the Kickstarter realm. Because again, those people that are supporting you want to get something in return. So unless, for example, an accident happened, like your business burned down, or maybe you in some way are disabled, or something negative happened where you're trying to maybe become a doctor, but you're from an area that's very impoverished and there's no way which you can actually move forward in that career pursuit, those are kind of things that might fit more in the GoFundMe realm. But if you're like, I have an invention idea and I want to raise money to create the prototype, or to create, to mass produce this, or I have a new film I've been working on and I want to raise money to get this into theaters, or to even stream it and to produce it online, or to get a DVD made, right? That's going to be more in the realm of Kickstarter. So when you're thinking about your project specifically, ask yourself, number one, how are you going to be raising the money and what are you going to be using that for, right? Number two, when that end product starts to come into picture, if you're thinking like this is going to produce something, you're probably going to be fitting more in the Kickstarter realm. For those of you out there that are like, dude, I totally get the whole like creating a product thing, or creating something experience, or even offering something as a perk or reward, but I don't know what to offer. Is Kickstarter the only platform in the rewards-based crowdfunding space? The answer is that it is a massive iceberg. Like, there's so much information out there, and I really work to condense a lot of that in my free course on Kickstarter. And if you want to learn more about that, you can go to link at crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter. That will take you to this landing page. You can enter your name and email, and you'll start getting some lessons from me when it comes to not only how to set up a Kickstarter campaign, but also how to get funded, some of the tools, some of the strategies that go into that launch, and this style of crowdfunding, and really just demystifying that for you. Again, at that link, crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter. I want to finish off today's video with some advice and tips for anyone out there that is looking to raise money from the crowd. And I think that's because it's such a scary thing to do. There's so much information out there, and there's a lot of noise, and to put yourself out there is always a little bit intimidating. So I hope that some of these tips and advice really are going to help you. And if you have found this video to be useful and educational, give me a thumbs up on this video. Come subscribe for more information just like this, and you'll get videos from Sal every single week. Okay, the first one is to be aware of the bread and butter of any crowdfunding campaign, and that's going to be your story. That's going to be the actual campaign page. That's going to be if you have a video or an image on the actual campaign page. It's really like the hardcore media assets that you need in order to launch a campaign, because that's really what makes the difference. You can have one campaign that's like wildly funded, and I have examples like this on my Crowdfunding Demystified podcast where it's done like 6 or 7 figures. You have another campaign. The big difference is the content on the page, because if you think about it, they both have goals, maybe they both have rewards, maybe they both have funding duration, right? There's a lot of the same functionality, but one has a compelling story and the other does not. That's gonna raise way more funding if you have that. The second is to be mindful of the experience which you're giving donors or backers. So whether you're doing a GoFundMe campaign or a Kickstarter campaign, be mindful of what people are getting out of this. If it is a donation, they wanna feel good about the donation. They wanna know how that's gonna actually help specifically that cause. What impact is it making? What does it mean? What are they standing up for? They wanna be able to feel good about doing that and also recommend your campaign to other people. So you gotta deliver that experience. So for example, if someone donated and you didn't say anything after that fact, that's kind of like someone like, I really was hoping he would just say thank you, or I was really just hoping to get an update on what's happening next with this campaign. So be mindful of the experience, or with Kickstarter, the perks and the rewards. Remembering to update people so they're not wondering, hey, what happened with this project? Is he producing the product yet? What's happening when it comes to this tabletop or this board game? Are they in the production stage? Really be mindful of the experience that you're delivering your backers or your donors. Tip number 3 is to build trust. And this is so much easier said than done, but there have been some crowdfunding campaigns that haven't been really great. And I've even been guilty of having 1 or 2 of them on my podcast where I didn't realize like this guy was scamming people, right? And all of a sudden he runs away with like $1 million or 6 figures in funding. People have been scammed before, and you wanna make sure that you go out of your way to build trust when it comes to your story, be that on GoFundMe or Kickstarter. Build trust with your potential donors. Let them know that this is legitimate, and just be aware that just because this is a need that you clearly have, it doesn't mean that other people are gonna see it that way, right? So just be aware of the way in which you are communicating trust. The next tip is to utilize tools. So we're really just like chimpanzees on this planet of Earth, this rock planet, right, that we call, that's in the solar system. And we're really only as good as the information in our head that we understand, reading books, listening to videos just like this, seeking out mentors. We're really only as good as the information we have, but also the tools which we're using. You have 2 people and one of them is even more skilled than the other, but the other person has better tools. They're gonna be much easier to actually accomplish a task, a job, be that, rehabbing, I don't know, a house or something like that, or construction. It's so much easier when you have good tools. So use this as an opportunity to learn about some of those tools which you can use when it comes to crowdfunding. Listen to videos like this, read books, get your hands on as much information as possible, because it's gonna be like between night and day when it comes to your results. And the final tip that I have for you is to be humble. It's okay if you don't know everything. And a lot of the times you don't know what you don't know. And I kind of realized this early on in my career, and I started to help with that when it comes to my blog or my podcast or my books or my courses, but I also want to make myself available on an individual basis to my community. And that's why I actually started to make myself available via individual one-on-one coaching calls. So these are basically intensive sessions where you bring me what you're trying to do. Maybe you're uncertain about the platform, or even if you should do crowdfunding, or maybe you're already dialed in and you're weeks away from launch. You're like, Sal, I just want to make sure I'm dotting my I's and crossing my T's and I have a strong foundation going into that campaign. I want to make this worth my while. I want to do this right by the book. And more importantly, I want this to be bigger. I want to have a big vision when it comes to what I'm raising money for, and to have this be a segue in my life, to have this be the start of a major milestone going into the future, be that building a brand, starting a nonprofit for a charitable cause, maybe changing the trajectory of my life and moving in a much more positive direction. If that sounds like you and you just want a little bit of guidance going into that campaign launch, I can dig into the archives of all of the campaigns that I've helped over the years, over the last 10 plus years, and apply that wisdom, information, tactics, tools, and strategies to your specific case. Go down below and book an individual one-on-one coaching call. Do it now at the link crowdcrux.com/coaching. That link will take you to a forum. You can tell me more about you, what you're trying to raise money for, what your goals are, and we can get that call scheduled ASAP at the link crowdcrux.com/coaching. Thank you so much for watching this video. My name is Salvador Briggman. I hope you enjoyed it. Give me a like if you did. Leave a positive comment in the description down below, and come subscribe if you want more videos just like this.